This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.
What initially appeared to be a tragic case of a suicidal drug overdose in New Jersey has now been reclassified as a cold-blooded murder. Following nearly 2 years of investigation, authorities have charged a 36-year-old Sarah Errickson and 22-year-old Joseph Ragan with murder and conspiracy in connection with the death of 21-year-old Emily Cruddas. New Jersey State Police troopers responded on February 16th to 23 to a residence on East Sunrise Road after receiving reports of an overdose. Upon arrival, officers found Cruddas unresponsive inside the home. Paramedics pronounced her dead at the scene, and early assessments pointed to a suicidal drug overdose, a conclusion bolstered by Cruddas' troubled past, which included surviving a previous suicide attempt after suffering a miscarriage. However, a subsequent investigation dramatically shifted the narrative. According to a probable cause affidavit, a witness revealed that Errickson had blamed her younger sister for causing her to lose custody of her children and her home. The allegation fueled suspicions that Cruddas' death was not self-inflicted, but the result of a deliberate personal vendetta over an inheritance dispute. About a month after Cruddas' death, Ragan made a startling admission to investigators. He stated that he and Errickson had deliberately injected an unconscious Cruddas with drugs. Ragan alleged that Cruddas returned home from a multi-day hospital stay following her suicide attempt. Errickson first gave her 2 capsules of crushed Xanax. She then prepared a syringe loaded with 10 to 15 bags of fentanyl-laced heroin. You know, like you have on hand in the cabinet. With Cruddas incapacitated, Errickson injected the drugs into her sister's hand, reportedly saying, "Take your medicine," while Ragan held her mouth shut. The disturbing confession prompted police to change the classification of Cruddas' death from a presumed suicide to undetermined. As the investigation continued, further evidence emerged in April when a backpack containing 15 wax folds of suspected heroin was turned over to authorities. Analysis later confirmed that the heroin in the backpack came from the same batch found near Cruddas' body. Prosecutors maintain that the motive behind the calculated act was greed. Assistant Cape May County Prosecutor Edward Shim described the killing as a cold, calculated, deliberate murder of a family member fueled by revenge, pointing to a bitter dispute over the house and money. The conflict centers on a 4-bedroom home in Woodbine, formerly owned by Christine Cruddas, and inherited equally by her daughters upon her death in 2020. After Emily Cruddas' death in 2023, the property at 17 East Sunrise Road was sold for $325,000, and Errickson eventually emerged as the sole beneficiary after legal challenges from Cruddas' father were resolved. Errickson, a resident of Millville, was arrested last month and has since appeared in Cape May County Superior Court on charges of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. She remains in custody at the Cape May County Jail without bond. Meanwhile, Ragan was apprehended in Iowa on January 30th and is now awaiting extradition back to New Jersey to face his charges. Additional interviews have provided further insight into the case. An ex-boyfriend of Errickson noted that she had long harbored resentment towards Cruddas, whom she blamed for losing custody of her children. An unnamed witness also confirmed Ragan's account of events, supplying police with critical details that led to the arrest warrant. As the investigation reaches its 2-year mark now, authorities are piecing together a picture of a meticulously planned murder driven by personal betrayal and greed. The case not only underscores the tragic consequences of a bitter family dispute, but also raises broader questions about the extremes of revenge in matters of inheritance and custody. I think
She went for revenge.
Yeah.
The one thing I hate about talking about this story is that it gives people an idea like, that's a good way.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, it's so cold and calculated and believable at the same time. It's like, oh, because her sister had mental health problems. And I don't know what happened with the kids, but if your kids were taken from you, there's a good reason your kids were taken from you.
Yeah.
Did she have anything to do with it? No idea. But since she had mental health issues already, it was a believable death. Like, oh, she overdosed. And leave it at that.
I guess that's a good way to, if you're going to kill somebody, to get away with it, at least until you confess.
Well, until I think they found that bag with the other drugs that matched up the drugs that were there,
Yeah.
and they were able to do some good police work too,
Yeah.
and put all this together. But it's just like that's her sister, her own sister. And she gave her Xanax so she gets loopy. I took some Xanax one time and I was like a freaking mess.
Yeah.
And so she, the poor woman, like she's incapacitated because who knows how much they gave her.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be the normal amount. And then she injects her, knowing like what she's planning on doing. I can't even, that's your sister. And then now that her sister's dead, she gets the entire proceeds from the house. She doesn't have to split it with anybody.
It's all about the money.
Life is good.
Yeah.
And somebody ends up dead and you're okay with that.
People are spooky. And
we wonder, and she's like, you caused my kids to be taken from me. Like if these are the kind of decisions this woman makes, she has no business having kids.
yeah, I mean, some people are just strictly out for themselves and they'll do anything that they want or need. And it's scary when it's like your own family members, because those are the people that should be closest to you and not capable of doing this sort of thing. And you end up having allegiances to them that maybe you shouldn't have if you didn't know them as a sibling. And you probably have some trust there that maybe is not necessarily earned, but is just in existence. And then you find yourself in something like this. Yeah.
And she could have come over to her house and been like, oh my God, I'm so sorry everything you've been through, I just want to hang out for a while.
Let me help you. Take your medicine.
Yeah. Oh my God. I just can't. It's just so horrific.
Yeah. It's, yeah. Look out for your loved ones. Not in the way of like, let me help them, but look out for your loved ones.
The latest true crime stories, expert breakdowns, and shocking twists, all in one place. Press subscribe now to the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.